Hello and thank you for listening to Into the Fire, a Burning Coal Theatre Company podcast.
Jerome Davis. I'm the artistic director of Burning Coal Theatre Company, and I'd like to welcome everyone to Into the Fire, the Burning Coal Theatre Company podcast series on all things theatrical. Our guest today is Laurel Ullman, an actress in the Triangle who has worked with Burning Coal on a number of occasions, most recently, I believe, in Silent Sky by Lauren Gunderson last December. But is well known as a regular contributor to the arts community in Durham, Chapel Hill, Raleigh, and perhaps further afield than that. Laurel, welcome. Thank you for joining Into the Fire today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I wanted to start off by finding out a little bit about you. You have an air of mystery about you that I don't know a whole lot about you. I'd love to know where you're from originally and how you wandered into the field of theater.
Sure. Well, I'm from the Midwest. I was born in Iowa. Spent a lot of my childhood there. Family did a brief stint in Wisconsin and then landed in northern Indiana, and I was there through freshman year of college before moving and transferring to UNC Greensboro. I actually took a drama class in theater because I needed to pick an elective, and my friends told me it was easy and there was no homework.
And was that true?
I mean, we had to memorize some lines and work on scenes and things like that. But I just, fell in love with it immediately and just jumped right on board doing as many shows as I possibly could. What
had you been there for prior to that?
This was high school.
Oh, high school. Okay.
Yeah, that was an elective in high school. Yeah, just loved it to the point where I had been in marching band and I realized they conflicted. So I dropped out of marching band and I wanted to keep that some kind of connection to music. So I joined choir because I was able to do both of those at the same time. And yeah, just from then on, I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
What was the first play that you performed in?
Our beginning theater class did Arsenic and Old Lace as a class project. Mm-hmm. And I got to play the insurance adjuster who comes in at the very end. It has about 2 lines. It was great. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had done a handful of school-related, little things that everybody participates in elementary and high school. Sure. And I remember thinking they were fun, but they didn't lead to, much further. So that was really the point where I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome.
I'm curious to know, was there something about the experience? It sounds like it immediately grabbed you. Do you know why? Was it a personality? Was it the environment? Was it the camaraderie of the fellow actors? What was it about the experience that hit you so hard?
I think it was all of those things. I think I had always loved to read and had a good understanding of stories and plots and using my imagination and putting myself into those situations. And, according to my parents, had always acted out little things and done little accents and told jokes. And so then when I got the opportunity to really put that into practice, it seemed to come really naturally. And it was just so much fun. And then, yeah, definitely the camaraderie. I mean, even now to this day, theater is the main way that I've found and maintained friendships throughout my life. It's so difficult to meet people as you get older. But the folks that I have met through plays have been the most enduring and sort of steadfast and fun friendships. The people that I know that I can really count on have come from theater. So it's just a wonderful sense of community and collaboration.
we build little families each time we do a show, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we have to give them up, at least for a
Some
while.
of them stick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them
Then
stick.
they come back together in a different shape. Yeah. So North Carolina was because of UNC Greensboro. That's what brought you to North Carolina.
Well, not quite. I back in the days of when online dating was dangerous and mysterious. Now that's what everybody does. But at the time, I had met a former partner online in like a chat room or something, and that developed into a long-term relationship. And so I moved here to be with them. So I had to also move my college education. So got here, took a year off to establish residency so I could get that in-state tuition, and then picked up at UNCG. Most of my credits transferred, so it was fairly smooth. Yeah.
And you were there for acting, I presume.
Yeah, I didn't try to do BFA because my credits, the credit thing was weird. Like to go into the BA, they accepted all but like one of my credits. And then BFA, I would have basically been starting from scratch. And I was like, nah, I want to get done with college. I'm a grown up now. I was married very young, and didn't ever live on campus or anything. And it's like, no, I just want to get done with this college thing. So
yeah, same here. My university had speech and theater were lumped together for some reason, and so I ended up with a Bachelor of Science degree. Yeah, which is a little odd, but there it is.
Yeah.
But you had good experiences at UNCG. You had good roles and good role models.
It was a mixed bag, I'll be honest. I loved all my professors. I loved a lot of the students. There was pretty big divide between master's, BFA, BA. And, I'm not saying there shouldn't have been differences, but it felt a little, it didn't always feel wonderful to be the one who, had the non-speaking role and didn't really have access to more opportunities, and the one who's staying up till 3 a.m. doing the laundry for the people who have speaking roles because you're just a BA. There was a little bit of a tension between those. The grad students were uniformly wonderful, but it's just the structure. That's how the structure is that the BAs didn't get a ton of performance time because they were considered to be generalists, even if we didn't consider ourselves to be generalists. So, on the flip side, I looked outside college to, get roles, and actually before, in that gap year between college, had already picked up my first professional contract just on my own. So I just learned to go out there and just get things for myself. So
the most important muscle one can develop as an artist, and it's almost never a part of our education somehow. Which I find really interesting. I worked very briefly with some people who were at Columbia University when I was living in New York City, and they had a new MFA in directing that they were launching, and one of the stipulations is that they couldn't use the actors at Columbia. They had to go into the community in New York City, which of course is rife with actors, and so they had to go out into that community and find their own. And I thought that's the smartest thing I think I've ever heard. The theater world, because it's training them to do what 5 minutes after they graduate they'll have to start doing. So right. That sounds great. Now, I'm not breaking any news when I say that you're widely regarded as one of the best and most interesting actors in the Triangle. Did you feel that early on in your life, or do you feel it now? I mean, maybe I should ask that, but
I'm from Iowa, so praise is like, oh God, stop. But
everything's very level. it all on a level plane, so to speak.
I don't know. I mean, I have people who think I'm great and people who don't want to give me the time of day too. So I think it's just, I'm happy to hear that. I've heard that, I don't know. Like I think I have a natural instinct combined with some training, and I have been lucky enough to find a number of directors and companies that appreciate what I bring to the table. And one pattern that I frequently find myself in is getting the hardest role in a show. And so I think that's actually helped me a lot. There'll be a show that, maybe it's all women, and the director, has a group of women. They're like, okay, how are we going to cast this? And maybe I think, it would be nice to play the vixen or these sort of simpler characters, but then I end up getting given the complex one because of just who shows up. They know I can do it. And so then it's hard, and I have to work through it and figure it out. And then at the end of that process, I'm a little bit better. And then the next show, they're like, well, she handled that. Let's give her another challenging one. And so it's great. It's great. I don't want to play boring roles.
Right.
Sometimes it'd be nice to just ride in and just do something silly and leave. But ultimately, I think that makes me better. And so I appreciate that. I don't know if that really answers your question, but
no, it does. It really does. Who wants to play Romeo if you can play a Mercutio, for instance, or Juliet when you can play Lady M, in the Scottish plays. So I think what you're describing is the soul of a character actor. Right. So speaking of which, you were performing next here at Burning Coal as part of our second stage series, which we do every summer. And this year it is a repertory season of 3 plays, each produced by a small or just starting out producer or company. And I'm going to go over the 3, if you'll bear with me just for a second, just for marketing purposes. Ruby is a new play written and performed by a young woman who's just relocated to our area, Susan Gross. And The Face of Emmett Till is a play written in part by Emmett Till's mother and is produced by the Pure Life Theater. And then the one that you're involved with is a production by the Switchyard Theatre Company, which is a relatively new company. I think that this is their second year. And the play is called Or. And I'd love for the title doesn't give much away, as opposed to Ruby, which is about Ruby or The Face of Emmett Till. But can you tell us just a little bit about tell us about that, and then I'd love to hear about the particular character you're playing. Aphra Behn is that how you pronounce it?
Aphra Behn, yeah.
Aphra Behn, yeah, right. Who was the first published a female playwright in England that we know of?
Yeah, she was considered the first professional female playwright, the first female to make her living that way in England. Yeah, came a little bit after Shakespeare, So
what's the play about? Is it just a recitation of the events of her life, or is there more to it than that?
Well, it definitely has a lot of layers. It's so the title. I think there's a number of reasons for the title, but the most immediate one that comes to mind is a lot of the plays that were written at that time by Behn, by Shakespeare, by other contemporaries. They weren't satisfied with one little title. They had to have
subtitle.
Basically, they had to say the new king or what you like. They had to have this two-part title, and so there's some reference to that. So just the question of choices, like which direction do you go? You could do this or you could do that. is part of it. Duality, I guess, what the playwright is going for there. But it's definitely not a biopic. It's there's sort of an introductory, I don't think I'm giving anything away really, but there's sort of a beginning scene, and then we transition to a different scene, and then the playing time is, or the play is continuous until the end. So it does not move around in time a lot. It's just that a lot happens in that basically over the course of one night, in her life as she's revving up to become a playwright and having different romantic and spy-related adventures. So
she was a spy as well.
Yeah. So one thing that's very interesting about her is that historians are kind of befuddled by her. Like they believe that she possibly intentionally obscured a lot of the facts about herself. It's kind of unclear exactly who her family was. She was probably married, but that could have been fabricated. She was a spy, but the exact details of that are not 100% known. She may have gone to debtor's prison, but that might just be, again, another story that maybe even she made up. So she wanted to create these stories, and she wanted fame for her work, but she didn't want a lot of personal attention, and she perhaps intentionally tried to hide or blur her personal life.
It's an interesting dichotomy, the artist who wants to express themselves but doesn't want to be in the public eye, which is a neat trick if you can pull it off. So is it the kind of play where it's important to know about her? Have you been researching her a lot, or is her life metaphorical more, I guess?
I don't think it's super important to, read very much about her. I mean, if folks are interested, there's plenty out there. Books, Wikipedia, you can find things about her. There's been a number of plays written about her, actually. But, she was a playwright who, in the later half of the 17th century, who's been compared to Shakespeare. She wrote a number of, she sort of was ignored for a long time after she died, and then sort of rediscovered by some feminist critics and playwrights. I remember The Rover, her play The Rover, was in my big brown book of classics that we had to read in theater history. And actually, during the height of the pandemic, I was working with Noelle Azzarella's company, Brave New Classics. We did a whole virtual production of The Rover. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So she would have been after Shakespeare, and she would have been working in some of the same venues as him, or do you know anything about that, about where her plays were?
I'm not 100% sure about venues, but I do know that she sort of spent a lot of her time during the interregnum outside of England, spying for the exiled royalty, and then came back after Restoration, after King Charles II was back in place. And she was a royalist. She was very much on that side, and enjoyed sponsorship by the king to get her works out there.
Right.
So my understanding, yeah, I think she would have been in the big fancy theaters.
I believe she's interred at Westminster Abbey, which means she was in good stead with somebody high up during her time.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. And the process of taking on a role like that, Laurel, do you find that this is an intuitive process for you, or how do you approach playing any character? I guess I'd love to hear what your process is, or if you have a process that you can articulate.
I'm a big fan of I just like to read the play over and over and over again. I attempt to read it first as just like a casual reader or an audience member. And then, not that you always get to pick your character, but usually you'll feel drawn to one or the other, and just I'll sort of intuitively feel like I understand them the most. I understand where they're coming from, and just sort of, the classics of scene analysis, just asking different categories, like, what do I say about myself? What do other people say about me? Where are my loyalties? What status am I relative to other people? What do I want in the scene? Sometimes the playwright gives you a lot to work with. Like you might have Eugene O'Neill telling you the shape of your eyebrows. Right. Or you might have Sarah Rule giving you absolutely nothing.
Right. Or Shakespeare.
Yeah. So that can be fun. That can be fun too. I feel like with sort of, which I don't a lot of times get the chance to play, a romantic lead with a lot of stage time, you have a little bit more latitude to put more of yourself into it, because perhaps you have a more fully fleshed out emotional journey that you're making. And there's more room for you in that, and it'll be more real if you allow yourself into it. Not that you don't do that with character work, but there's more of a need to differentiate yourself, especially if you're might be playing multiple characters, different physicalities, different voices, which is usually what I do. Typically with a play like this, I'd be the one with the wigs and the hats, and I'm very used to
running around from one exit to the next. Yeah.
Yes, that's more standard for me. So.
Yeah. I was in the same boat. I did a production of A Christmas Carol once where I lost 5 pounds during the run of the show because I was literally racing. I would run to one entrance and there would be somebody standing there with a coat and a hat, and I'd walk on and say, "Good morning, Mr. Scrooge," and then take the hat off and run around to another. And it was fulfilling in a certain way. So the play is about a pioneer, a woman writer, and a pioneer in that regard. I think I know you well enough to know that that's an important idea. Do you select roles and plays based upon what the play is working to communicate, or how do you approach which roles you select?
Well, to the extent that, you might have a choice, like I wish I could look at the entire season for the entire triangle and be like, I want that one. And that's just how it would work. But as far as, things I might choose to audition for, things I'm reached out to about, I don't know how to give 50%. I wouldn't know how to do that. So if I say yes to something, it's because, I have at least a certain level of confidence in the director, the company, their good intentions, their resources, their creativity. The script has got to be great. The role's got to be worth my time. And really, I love all kinds of plays and all kinds of modes of playwriting, I guess. I love light, fluffy things. I love super dark things. I don't mind if the bad guy wins, if the story is super clever and interesting.
So you will do Shaw.
Oh yeah, sure.
So we were up in Toronto a couple of weeks ago, and we took a group of people up there to see plays, and there was, it started with King Lear, and it had a bunch of really interesting new plays, all with kind of political subcurrents in them, but we ended with a farce that Tom Stoppard had adapted from I think it was maybe an Austrian playwright from the 1800s, maybe called On the Razzle, and it had no value whatsoever, except it was just so well done. It was just we left ebullient. We just floated out of the building, everybody, because it was so well done and so funny. And I remember thinking, and I've had this thought before, there's something else about theater, something other than the subject matter, that is communicated in a play. And I wonder if it isn't sort of just the life force, if the actors are working at that level, and if the playwright was working at that level, and if all of their work is working together, if there's something communicated to us that's worth a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely been surprised many times, maybe going to a show because I know someone, and I was like, I'm not a big fan of the script. I'll go support them. It's fine. And then I go, and it's like, wow, they really transcended that material. They made it interesting. And then just going back to your original question, the other thing I guess I sort of look for is just wanting a variety, not wanting to do the same thing over and over again. I tend to get a whole lot of strong, brusque, scary women, which is great. And there's variety within that character.
Yeah.
But I also, want to be vulnerable or nervous or not brave or make the wrong choice, be in the wrong. So that's fun too. And so this character has been fun to play because she's just softer, more vulnerable, more outwardly expressive of love and affection and things like that I've gotten to play recently. So.
Well, that seems like a good place to end our discussion today. Laurel Ullman, thank you very much for joining us. The play is Or, by Liz Duffy Adams. It is performed by the Switchyard Theatre Company here at Burning Coal as part of our second stage series. The series opens tomorrow on June 7th and runs through the 25th. Or's performance dates are embedded within that range. So if you're interested in tickets for Or for Ruby, or the Face of Emmett Till, you can find information on our website at burningcoal.org, or just give us a ring at 919-834-4001. And Laurel Ullman, I appreciate you joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you as Aphra Behn and many more performances in the future, knock on wood.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Fuel the Fire. We would like to give thanks to our sponsor, The Classical Station, listed at 89.7 FM or online at theclassicalstation.org. Org will run from June 10th to June 25th. For tickets, go online to burningcoal.org or call us at 919-834-4001.